you had no privacy at Smart and Biggar, because the people who worked in the mailroom had permission to enter anybody's office at any time, whether the door was closed or open, in order to connect incoming correspondence, incoming email with a file. We had systems for coloring files. As you can see, the different colors meant different things. Incoming mail came in. There was a way to identify the mail had come in. If the mail had been reviewed by the agent, we had a way of being able to tell that. And then finally, the task at hand had been done. You were able finally to put a file back in the file room, and every 2 weeks we had people whose only job was to pull every single one of these files and make sure that there was no correspondence in the file that couldn't be associated with something that hadn't yet been done. It would be a terrible thing to put a file back in the file room if you hadn't completed the job. So our firm exercised a modernization program. And I'm going to get rid of my picture here because that would be best. Perfect. And okay, so we engaged in an automation and standardization project, and the first phase was to get rid of all of the paper files. And we did that about 3 years ago. It was probably the worst weekend in my history as a professional, because it was like ripping off a Band-Aid. We figured the only way to properly do it was you would go home from work on a Friday afternoon under the old system, the paper file system. Nobody was allowed in the office on the weekend other than the people who were setting up the new paperless system. So no work could be done that weekend, and you came in on Monday and you weren't allowed to touch a paper file. You had to use the new paperless system. That was sort of phase one, and getting everybody modernized in that respect. And now what we're doing is we are engaged in a process for automation, and I guess using robots and to properly process incoming correspondence, either from the patent office or from clients, handling them with as little human intervention as possible, reducing errors, reducing costs. So this project was started in March, which was March of 2019, which is almost 2 years to the day after we got rid of all of our paper files. And if you're wondering what happened to that file room, by the way, I'm happy to say that just before I got on a plane to come to Taipei, we opened up our brand new lunchroom with 2 big screen TVs and lots of room for people to enjoy, because we now have so much extra space because we don't have to store our files anymore. So 2 years after we stopped using paper files, we decided to modernize our workflows towards the goal of automating how we process and prosecute patent and trademark applications. And really, it's a 4-step process. For the most part. Step number 1 is to look at your processes and reduce inefficiencies as much as possible. Step number 2 is to examine how we do things across the various offices. We have 5 offices across Canada, and we adopt the best practice in respect of those procedures. We then, the 3rd step would be to simplify the processes. And finally, ultimately, the goal is to reduce costs. And I'm going to show you an actual example of how we're able to reduce overhead and ultimately move towards having these processes, or as many of these processes, performed without any human intervention. So what we did was we looked at some of the major events in the life cycle of a patent and trademark application in Canada, and we split up the various different processes under certain headings. So here we identified 110 different patent and trademark prosecution processes across 9 process groupings. And you can see, those of you who are engaged in patent and trademark prosecution, these are pretty standard events in the life cycle of a patent and a trademark application. Now, Smart & Biggar is Canada's largest intellectual property firm filing patent and trademark applications in the Canadian Patent Office. We process approximately 7,000 new Canadian patent applications per year. It's about 500 to 600 a month and approximately 125 or so per week. And in a 5-day work week, that's about 30 every single day. We have very well-honed likelihood for error, reduce delay, and ultimately make it less expensive. So here's basically 5 of the different steps in the process analysis. We research the client requirements. Various clients have various rules for the handling of their patent and trademark applications. We research the current process. How are we currently handling this particular process for the client? We analyze the process. We try to identify inefficiencies. We highlight automation opportunities and brainstorm different ways of doing things. You have to think outside the box. Just because you've been doing something the same way, in our case, for 100 years, that doesn't mean it's the best way to do it. We have a requirement and sign-off. I have certain responsibilities over this project, so I have certain responsibility to sign off on the new proposed. Again, these are macro processes, and we're trying to standardize how we handle them, and then we plug them in to the different areas where they apply in the procedures. So this is impossible to see, but this is an example, and I'll just explain. This is a flow chart for the current process flow for receiving a filing certificate from the patent office and checking it for accuracy. You have to, I'm sure everybody here who works at an IP firm, just because you receive a filing certificate from the patent office doesn't mean it's correct. You have to check it. If there's an error, you have to go back to the patent office and get them to correct it, because that data on the filing certificate will show up on the issued patent. And once the patent is issued in Canada, the only way you can correct it after 6 months is to go to court, which is extremely expensive. So you don't want to do that. So what I'm trying to highlight here is these are the steps that's done by a human being, the team member, and these are the steps that are done currently by the system. And in this particular case, the correspondence comes in. There's a decision tree to ask whether or not the correspondence is correct, if there's any errors in the filing certificate. If there are errors, we have certain very human related procedures that have to be followed. If there's no errors, you would think it would be a simple matter to simply report that to the client. Well, our analysis showed we had a multi-step process involving template letters and importing the templates and varying the templates, checking the letter until it was finally forwarded to the client. This was wasteful effort and resources, and ultimately, when you're filing 7,000 patent applications a year, it becomes a lot of extra bandwidth that you don't need to have. So the 2B process flow that we've suggested is far simpler. The human being receives the patent filing certificate. There's a decision whether or not there's a discrepancy, and if there's no discrepancy, then we have a simple job, a system job level, which is simply entitled Run Report to Client, which is a standardized procedure which we use for each and every process that's like this, where we receive something from the patent office and we report it out. It's simpler, it's more efficient, and it's less expensive. If there is a discrepancy, we of course have a very human centered approach to dealing with it. Nevertheless, some of these processes are common to other procedures, yielding some cost savings. So ultimately, we're about a third into the steps that we're taking to analyze our various procedures. Again, what we're trying to do here is to reduce inefficiencies. We're trying to adopt best practices. We're trying to simplify, all with the goal of reducing costs. Thanks very much.